In 2022, Xbox's biggest game to date comes out, and well, today we're going to talk about it. But first up, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and share. It really helps the channel out. So Microsoft's been growing their first party portfolio for years now, and they've invested heavily into games, studio, IP. Now, they have first person shooters down, racing games down, but they explore in many genres. And one of the genres they explore in most, and one of the genres I've been wanting them to explore for the longest time, is more RPGs. And well, they bought Bethesda for many reasons, and one of those big reasons being RPGs. They make some of the most interesting RPGs in the world. And well, their next RPG is going to be something different entirely. Bethesda Game Studios have made RPGs for over 2 decades. We've visited a fantastical past filled with dragons, guards with arrows to the knee, and more. We've visited an alternate, post-apocalyptic wasteland where there's mutated giants out in the land and there's powered armor. Well, next up, Bethesda is going to the stars. And frankly, as a sci-fi fan, I could not be happier with the direction this game's taken. Starfield. Starfield takes place 50 light years away from Earth, in colonized deep space. Now, 20 years before the main game takes place in the year 2310, the two main factions among humans were at war, the United Colonies and the Free Star Collective. But now, in the year 2030, it's more peaceful, but it's still dangerous out there. Now, even though there is some level of peace, it's dangerous out there, filled with people from the Ecliptic Mercenaries, the Pirates of the Crimson Fleet, and violent spaces and more. Now, you are a member of Constellation. You set out to discover and figure out the mysteries of the universe. Now, Starfield is already the colony of New Atlantis. This is a very futuristic spaceport. This takes place in the capital of colonized space. The military runs this area, and this is the peak of human civilization in the colonial front. And honestly, the art style is amazing, and I can't even imagine what this is going to look like in-game. And bear in mind, these areas in the game are going to be super detailed, unlike anything we've ever seen before in any Bethesda title. Now, this next place is going to look really familiar to Star Wars fans out there. This is the futuristic pleasure city of Neon. A corporation which once ran a fishing platform discovered a substance which is now only legal on that planet for various reasons. Now, this is the type of place that's going to probably have the most interesting quests because, again, it's Bethesda and they always go all out when it comes to weird quests, and I think people are really going to like it, especially on that once was fishing platform. Next up, we have another place that looks very familiar to Star Wars fans, and personally I can't wait to explore this place, Aquila City, which is now the capital of the Free Star Collective. This city is all about freedom, but outside the city walls, it's dangerous, filled with these aliens that are a cross between wolves and velociraptors, and personally, I can't wait to explore this planet, because let's face it, those areas out there are going to be filled with caves and filled with loot and interesting quests. Now, I must say, I'm really impressed with what Bethesda are doing with the art style of these planets, because what we just saw are just a handful of some of the areas we will get to explore. They are using photogrammetry in this game, so areas, objects, environments will look extremely detailed using some of the best tech. But when it comes to these planets and the gorgeous concept art, it almost looks like they go on the Mass Effect route where they want the actual game itself to resemble the concept art, which, when it comes to sci-fi, it's something you really want. And I get the impression from Bethesda, and from what I've seen so far, they are really aiming to get the graphics and the in-game environments to match the concept art, which, let's face it, that's going to be really impressive. So if you're a sci-fi fan and an RPG fan, it's just going to be an extremely good time to explore. So Bethesda, they're making something extremely ambitious. And there have been rumours about this title, which I want to go over. So, there have been rumours that this game is going to have maps the size of Skyrim or bigger. Now, the thing about that is that something like Starfield is going to be filled with a variety of different maps and planets. But the thing about Bethesda is they've mentioned in the past they don't want miles of nothing to do. They want more bespoke areas filled with things to do. And Skyrim and Elder Scrolls games aren't that. Fallout, they don't do that. There's a lot of area in between things to do. But when you have something like the Outer Worlds or Starfield or even things like Mass Effect, it's all about having bespoke places filled with things to do. Now, it looks like Bethesda's taken elements of things like Skyrim and like an Elder Scrolls, but with also the things like the customization and the weapons from something like a Fallout, which they are obviously extremely familiar with, and even elements from things like Dragon Age, Mass Effect and The Witcher. Looks like they're taking elements of all the best RPGs and putting it into one game. And to me, that sounds extremely exciting. Developers over there have been working early on prototypes for MMOs, and they've been hiring for a new MMO. Now, you'd think something like Starfield being a huge new IP for them, they maybe expand it. So perhaps they are working on a Starfield MMO for years down the line, of course. Xbox game studios, they like to push technology, and it's always exciting. Now, one of the things they always push is HDR. They push HDR better than anyone. So, with things like Bethesda now, I expect things like Starfield to be utilising things like Dolby Vision, which is now utilised on Xbox Series consoles, and games can look more vibrant and better than ever, especially with the wider colour gamut. Now, with them using Xbox Series architecture, they can go all out. Now, one of the things that Bethesda knows is loading times have always been extremely long in those style of games. So, with things like Starfield, and also other games that we're going to see from them, we won't see the loading times we've seen in the past, especially in their RPGs, which is a good thing to know because these SSDs are extremely capable now, and going forward, that shouldn't be much of an issue. And I think this is probably going to be the first open world game to be by Bethesda on Xbox Series consoles that will run at 60 frames per second. So over the next few years, Xbox has a lot to offer, not just for technology, but for gamers, and especially people that want sci-fi RPGs. It looks like Microsoft just has a lot of cool sci-fi games in development, and again, for me, I think that's the right direction because we don't really have enough. Not really, not enough single-player sci-fi games. But, honestly, with things like Starfield and the Outer Worlds, that's just the beginning of what's to come, and it's an exciting time to be a fan of role-playing games, especially on Xbox. So all in all, Microsoft's working on a lot of cool things. But anyway, that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please like, share and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications, you'll be notified for my next video. The link for the last podcast will be in the description down below, and have a lot of cool videos planned. Some coming out soon, some coming out later in the year, and some that's coming out early 2022. Now, I do have a show in the works that's going to come out by the end of the year. Hopefully, that's extremely original and kind of risky. But if you like Xbox gaming stuff, and gaming in general, I think you'll enjoy this. It's long-form content, and I have more videos in the works that have taken a long time to make. Anyway, again, please share. It really helps the channel out. I'm out. I hope everyone has a good day. Peace.